Hey guys, so the name of the game today is Behind the Head Tricks, which calling things behind the head is kind of an amorphous category in a lot of respects, in that you can have tricks that normally would work fine without going behind the head, and you can add a behind the head element to them if you so prefer, or there are some tricks that require the behind the head element in order to be completed, like say a windmill, or this right here, which when I first learned it, I was told it was called a Mexican wave, but I have heard other people refer to it by other names, so I'm not going to give it a name this time around. In all these cases, though, calling something behind the head has the same quality that calling something behind the back or under the legs does, which is what you're talking about is not the position of the poi itself, though the poi may indeed be behind your back or under your legs or behind your head. What you're really referring to is the position of your hand. And that is, if you can imagine that there would be like a flat plane that would go out straight from your ears, the moment your hand passes by that plane and so goes, say, back behind where your ear would be on your head, you are performing a move that would be considered behind the head. See how that works? Now, here's the real question. How do you start to work towards this? Because, you know, as pointed out before, there are plenty of tricks that use elements of behind the head, or can use elements of behind the head, and plenty of tricks that are made out of behind the head elements. So this right here is a drill that I've been using for a number of years now to kind of ease people into the idea of doing behind the head tricks. And it's one of these things that I think is a really, really interesting way of tricking your body into making it feel more comfortable in a lot of respects, which is to start off just doing a tic-tac back and forth with your arms stretched out, and then to bend your elbow in such a way that it has a right angle in it, like so. You'll note this means that if you're keeping your arms straight out from your shoulder, you now have your hand at about the tippy-top of your head level, if not slightly above, right? If you continue that even further and try and get that hand as close to your ear as possible. Now, the position that I'm in right now is going to feel a lot like the poi is in wheel plane, right? So here's where it gets tricky. I'm going to stick my right foot further forward than my left foot, and I'm just going to turn my head 90 degrees towards the camera, and then turn my head back. Now, what just happened is that the one and only thing I moved was my head. But if you're like most people, when you do this one small change, it's going to feel like a completely different world, even though your arm is really doing the exact same thing. One way you can experience this would be to come here and then close your eyes, and then turn your head. And it'll help your body realize that what's going on is really the exact same thing. You've just moved your head slightly, right? You can also take this in such a way that you could say, keep the poi on the left side of your body and turn your head, in which case you're in a wall plane kind of place with your right hand up. Or if you keep your hand on the right hand side of your body when you're in wheel plane and turn your head, you're now keeping your poi stable in a behind the head kind of place. Look at that, right? This is really handy if you're going to do, say, like Nick Woolsey is really a fan of teaching people how to do what he calls the no-beat windmill, wherein you have one poi in front of your head and one poi behind your head, and they're moving in split time same direction like this, right? This is one way that you can train that. You can, say, turn into that wheel plane kind of place and bring your poi as close to your ears as you possibly can, and just turn your head to look at your left hand. And voila, you're there. Again, this is not something that maybe will happen overnight, but it's something that will happen with practice. This is a great, great, great drill for teaching your body how to do this, because it's putting it in a position where it already feels comfortable and just tweaking it very, very slightly in order to get to the next step. You also, of course, not only want to do this with both hands, but in both directions. So I started off doing what felt like forwards in wheel plane to me. Now I'm doing it in reverse in wheel plane, and again, I stretch out my arm and bend it, and now I turn to face the camera, and I've got my my tic-tac now going in front of and behind my head, right? And you might find that your planes start to go a little wonky, or you hit yourself in the back. That's fine. Turn back towards your hand, get it stable again, and then go very, very slowly. Let's say just like in increments of moving your head. And eventually, getting back to the front will feel as natural as you can possibly imagine. Once you got that down, it's time to actually start using timing and direction to figure out how you can make this work in, all the different timing and direction combinations. So for example, if I wanted to start off in together same, I could very easily do it in such a way that I always have one hand in front, one hand behind, or I could do it in such a way that I always have both hands in front, both hands behind, such as this. Or I could freeze with one in front, one behind, which would be like a together same version of the no-beat windmill, like so. You can, of course, do this in together opposite, which I think together opposite and split time same direction are really the variants that most people will be most familiar with, in which case, again, you can drill it just like we did with together same, where you have both hands in front, both hands behind, both hands in front, both hands behind. This is something that a lot of beginners really like to do. It begins to add that whole dynamic in a way that the audience thinks look really cool. And of course, you can do the thing where you're switching off which hand is in front and which hand is behind once that feels comfortable. And of course, if you're going in split time same direction, the windmill itself is literally nothing but a tic-tac on each side. So if I were to roll up my left arm, it's my right arm going around like this. If I were to roll up my right arm, it's my left arm going around like this. So if I turn towards my left arm, it's the reverse side. If I turn towards my right arm, it's the forward side. And of course, I've done an entire tutorial just on that move alone, right? And of course, you have the option of doing that no-beat windmill that Nick Woolsey is such a fan of. And I don't think there's a way, yeah, that would just be ugly, is to try and do them both at the same time. You're going to tangle if you do that. Scratch that one. So yeah, you get the general idea. Once you have this little bit, just drill it in all these different places and everything, and not only are you going to be able to pull off the moves then that clearly use behind the head positions, but also you'll be able to see places where, say, like if you're performing a flower or something like that, you can see a place where you can insert a behind the head moment if you so prefer, right? Yeah. So, thank you guys for watching and have yourselves a great week. I'll be back next week with another tutorial for you. Peace.